All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mid-Hudson Special Ed Task Force event on School Refusal 101. We're very pleased to have everyone here tonight. We've got quite a crowd, and this seems to be a topic that we all really need to hear more on so we can help our kids get to school and our teachers as well. Laura, do you want to share a little bit about the Special Ed Task Force?
Sure. The Mid-Hudson Special Ed Task Force is a regional affiliate of the New York State Special Ed Task Force. Its executive council consists of a small number of stakeholders dedicated to increasing opportunities and outcomes for students with disabilities. And we have been organizing informational programs for our Mid-Hudson community since about 2014. We're always looking for new members, people, educators, parents, service providers, really anyone that has an interest in improving the outcomes of students with disabilities. So we've done a number of different presentations, and tonight's presentation is the second one of 5 we will be doing this year in the Mid-Hudson chapter.
Great, thank you, Laura. I'd like to introduce now our presenter. Her name is Denise Green. And Denise brings her expertise from many years of advocacy work in the community for parents of children with special needs. Her wealth of knowledge stems from her career and lived experience. She is the mother of 2 special needs children, and she has had to navigate the special ed system and the OPWDD process, which is quite a process, in her current role as the parent training and information center coordinator at Westchester and Putnam Independent Living Centers. She assists parents in navigating the complex education system. She's an integral part of the system, and her role is conducting workshops of interest to the community within the Lower Hudson Valley. We're really pleased to have Denise here tonight, and I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite tonight. Hi, everybody. My name is Denise Green. Like Nancy said, I am a mom of 2, so I have experience both working in the field and having children that I have to navigate through the field. So what we're going to be talking tonight is school avoidance, understanding its causes, and how one can manage school avoidance. To give a little background about what I do at Wilkin Pills, we do give support and advice through phone and email regarding the special education process. We do a whole bunch of workshops and webinars for parents and teachers. And we also do what's known as the Family Empowerment Advocacy Series, which is a 6-session series that really teaches parents how to advocate for their children and navigate the special education system. We cover Dutchess, Orange, Putnam, Rockland, Sullivan, Ulster, and Westchester counties. We are a grant, so there are no fees associated with any of our services. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Our agenda for tonight is we're going to be talking about anxiety and how it affects the brain, when anxiety affects attendance, what is the school attendance obligation on behalf of the student and the school, options for the school phobic child, strategies for intervention when you have a child or a student who is school phobic. So anxiety in the brain. It is a normal part of human development to feel anxiety at times. And at times it can be natural and necessary. You should feel anxiety when you see a dog snarling and growling at you. It is built into our DNA from the times when we were cave people. In this case, anxiety in this situation would be very normal. However, anxiety that is triggered by stress can easily tip us over into what's known as survival mode. Unfortunately, when we go into survival mode, the prefrontal cortex, which is the reasoning part of our brain, shuts down and doesn't function as well as it should. And the amygdala kicks in to trigger one of the possible 3 F responses that we're going to discuss on the next slide. Stress and anxiety. The 3 ways, or the 3 Fs reaction, are fight to ward off the attack, flight to run away from the task, or freeze as a means of preventing the attack and dealing with the stress that is producing severe anxiety. When anxiety is related to school, This can lead to behaviors and responses that may over time develop into full-blown school refusal. What makes our kids susceptible to school refusal? They can have an overactive or enlarged amygdala. In fact, there's some evidence that suggests that the amygdala region in people who have autism is actually bigger and more sensitive. There is evidence to suggest that exposure to stress can trigger growth in the amygdala, changes in the maturing brain, and changes in hormone levels as children age may also contribute to the increase in the stress-related psychological dysfunctions that some children do experience. Individuals with learning disabilities can have the inability to access the curriculum, which can spike their anxiety. They may experience learning-based post-traumatic stress disorder, especially when their difficulties are not acknowledged and or addressed by the system. A student who is behind in reading and realize that he or she is behind in reading and her peers can read better than they can will develop stress and may react in one of the 3 Fs. They may freeze, refuse to do the work. They may fight, have a meltdown, throw a book across the room, try to elope from the room, or they may flight. They may try to elope from the school. School avoidance is really a flight reaction or a combination of all 3. Socialization, if they have social difficulties interacting successfully with their peers, normal everyday socialization helps reduce stress levels. Study after study has shown that as people age, their stress levels go down when they have meaningful connections to others. Everybody wants to be part of a group or a crowd and have a few good friends, or maybe some of us desire to be part of a much larger crowd, part of our community. When you have social difficulties, normal social interactions can become very stressful for you, and they can build up over time. Major life events can also trigger severe anxiety. For example, you may have a change in your school, a change in your program. You may have a divorce or a death in the family. You may be coming up to some major tests in your academic careers, for example, the SATs or the ACTs, or you could be taking AP classes and the workload is overwhelming for you. These are all stress triggers of life triggering events that can cause one of the 3 Fs, flight, freeze, or fight responses to appear in a child that is suffering from severe anxiety. When does anxiety affecting attendance become a problem? When should parents and educators become concerned about this? It becomes a problem when it interferes with the student actually going to school and making and sustaining friendships within the school environment and having fun outside of school and in school. Not all anxiety is problematic. Not all anxiety will become an anxiety disorder. To determine if a child's condition is part of an anxiety disorder, one must evaluate with the 4 Ds in mind: disproportion, disruption, distress, and the duration of the anxiety. What is disproportion? Disproportion is when the reaction to the stress or anxiety seems excessive to what you're seeing. So for example, in this picture, this child is overreacting to a little harmless cat. They seem to have an explosion of emotions. They are severely frightened of it. A child who is so afraid to go to school may end up having tummy aches or stomach aches, may feel sick in the morning. What might seem like a very little minor detail to us as parents or as adults may seem huge and overwhelming to the child. This could also be due to a falling out with their school friends, new hurdles in learning, sensory disorders, sensory integration disorder, executive function issues. All these issues together can snowball to become a much bigger deal for the child, and it can make their reaction be disproportionate. Disruption. When anxiety substantially interferes with a child's ability to function normally is when parents and educators should start becoming concerned. Your child may show a disturbance in their sleep pattern. They may lose interest in activities that they have normally enjoyed and have always wanted to do in the past, but no longer want to do anymore. They may struggle to get up in the morning. They may refuse to go to school altogether. They also may start watching YouTube or playing video games obsessively. To the parent, this can seem like, well, hey, look, they can do this. Why can't they go to school? But for them, what they're trying to do is have control over their environment, over any part of their environment that they can. Distress. With acute distress, your child is easily upset. Your child may blow up over a minor issue. Their reactions seem over the top to you. Your child will start seeing being unhappy. They may be miserable, unable to face what is seemingly the everyday aspects of life that we all deal with. They just can't get themselves to get started on their homework. They can't get themselves to get out of bed, to brush their teeth, to get dressed, to walk out the door, to get to the bus, to get to school on time. Your child will not be able to when the distress levels rises to a disruption point. They won't be able to get out of bed. Mornings will become a battlefield as you attempt to wake your child up and get them dressed and get them out the door for school. The duration of this distress, how long is it lasting? Is it lasting for a month, for example? In some individuals, this duration of stress may occur around certain times. It may be based upon the season. It could be based upon weather changes. It could be based on hormonal changes. For example, a woman's cycle. You may see a spike in anxiety during any of these times, and this is a pattern that you need to watch out for. Take notes. You know, maybe get yourself a little calendar and write down days where your child was having school refusal. What was the weather like? Where are they in their cycle if they're a female? What was going on that day in school? Was their major test or something that they were very much afraid of? School phobia. Historically, school phobia was known as school refusal or school avoidance. School phobia occurs when a child feels that they are unable to go to school on a regular basis or has problems staying in school for the entire school day. Children with school phobia might complain of physical symptoms shortly before leaving for school, or they might be repeatedly asking to go to the school nurses. Symptoms of school phobia can include headaches, stomach aches, nausea, diarrhea. These may be genuine or they may be imagined by the child, but the impact is the same. The child is attempting to escape from the situation that is causing them great stress and anxiety. Other reasons for school phobia could be that that their senses are being overwhelmed by the school environment itself. They could have separation anxiety from their parent. They could have avoidance. They may be trying to avoid negative experiences within the school. They may fear going to school. They may have low self-esteem. They may have poor executive functioning abilities and skills, and they don't want to get yelled at by the teacher for forgetting their homework or not staying on task. They may have a history of negative outcomes in school. For example, they may have been subject to bullying over the years and it has snowballed out of control, or they may for years have been struggling to keep up with their peers academically and they know they are behind and they just don't want to go to school anymore and have that keep being focused, that they know they can't read this chapter. They know they don't understand. They're petrified that the teacher's going to call them to read the book during ELA and they can't read the words that are on the page. It is important to note that most children want to please adults. They want to conform. They don't want to be different. And they would go to school if they could go to school. But at this point, their body is not going to let them. In some instances, some students may get as far as getting dressed, eating breakfast, getting their books all together, getting into the car, letting you drive them to school. But then when they get to the school parking lot, they cannot physically get out of the car. They will refuse to get out of the car. That type of behavior is generally fear-based. Something has spiked their fear and we're not sure why.
My mindset at the time
is okay. Sorry, I was just making sure that someone didn't have a question or something. School refusal is really when the child is now saying, I can't do this anymore. I don't know how to do this anymore. I can't take the anxiety. I can't take the feelings that this is generating in me. School refusal can start with a missed day here, a missed day there, and then it starts to build over time. The more a child is away from school, the harder it will be to get that child back into school. It will naturally increase anxiety in the child because they're missing instructional time. So not only does the student and the child have to deal with whatever was triggering the severe anxiety in the first place, but now they know that their workload and the workload that they have missed is growing. They're falling further and further behind, and their friends are moving on with their lives, and they're not part of that anymore. So something that seemed overwhelming to begin with now becomes impossible, where the child is saying, I can't go to school anymore. The school's job is to get the student to school, and they can and should work with you in order to get the child back to school. They may need to come to your home and help you do this. And there are programs that can be put in place to get assistance in the morning to get the child out the door. School attendance obligations. What are the obligations of the student to attend school? Over the next few slides, we're going to discuss what school attendance obligations are like and what the school's responsibilities are for attendance. Did I skip a slide? Okay, there's a slide that did count. Okay, I'm sorry. Every school day does count. School is not just about learning facts. It's being about part of the community, being part of the school community, maybe being on some clubs, being on some sports, interacting with your friends during downtime like recess and lunch, socializing with the peers both in and out of the classroom, learning to work independently, also learning to work effectively in a group, how to deal with others. And it also develops emotional resilience and socialization skills you'll start to develop. Being present when in school, when information is delivered and when instruction is delivered, is critical for student success. But we should also note that those who miss school on a regular basis are also missing out on crucial aspects of social development and a sense of belonging to the school and the wider community as a whole. If your child is not in school, they can become part of out of mind, out of sight for their peers. Often after school activities are planned by students during school. If your child's not in school, they're not going to get they may not get the invite to some of these after school activities. So now we're compounding another problem. They're starting to miss out on some of the social development that naturally occurs during these after school activities. A child who refuses to go to school will miss out on both the social and the emotional development that comes from these impromptu activities that other students are developing. The school district has a responsibility to provide a positive school experience. The districts need to be an active partner with the students and their families, and consistent school attendance will help lead to academic success, i.e. getting a diploma when you finally graduate out of high school. Schools are responsible for creating and maintaining a positive school environment, both physically and psychologically. They are responsible for both the physical well-being of the child and the emotional well-being of the child. School attendance policies. School districts are responsible for developing and maintaining accurate student attendance policies and records. What do I mean by that? Just so you remember, there are 180 school days in the year. If a student is missing a few weeks of school due to severe anxiety, they are missing a significant amount of instructional time. Schools are responsible for tracking an individual student's attendance when their absences are excused, when they're unexcused, when they are leaving school early, is that an excused reason? When they come in school tardy, is that an excused reason or not? They are responsible for looking for trends in students' attendance or non-attendance. And they are also responsible for developing interventions to improve school attendance for all students, including those with disabilities and those without disabilities. Schools are responsible for noting who is absent that day, who comes in late that day, and who has to leave early that day, and the reasons why. The school nurse at the elementary school level is usually the person charged with tracking and notifying parents when a student is absent for the day. Usually the school nurse will call the parent, or they may send an email, or they may send a text letting you know that your child missed school that day. A lot of districts have moved to sending home a robocall after 6 o'clock on the hopes of catching the parent being home and not having the student interrupt the call. If the parent cannot be reached by phone, the school district should reach out by text and or email. At the middle and high school levels, you may get that automated robot call that I was discussing. And again, those usually come out in the evening hours because school districts have noticed sometimes that when they called during the day, if parents were working, parents weren't getting the message, the child was picking up and saying, yes, I know, Susie's home today, she's sick. I recommend personally that you sign up for any and all means of communication through your district. So for my own children, I would get a phone call, I would get a text, and I would also get an email letting me know that they missed a day of school, that they left school early, or that they missed, now that they're in the high school, if they missed certain periods versus others. This way the school is keeping me up to date onto what my child's attendance is like, both on a whole day and on a per period basis. A school counselor should review the school attendance policy with students who are showing excessive absences. In addition, student support services can get involved to collaborate and/or refer the student out to an outside agency and their family to community supports and services. For example, SPOA, single point of access. When you have a student who is refusing to go to school, your school district should make a referral to the SPOA and fill out a SPOA application, which is usually handled by either the Youth Bureau or the Department of Mental Health, depending upon where you live, and they will bring a whole bunch of community supports around that child to get that child back into school. Just lost my train of thought. I was going to say something about the middle and high school. Back to me, I'm sorry. Now, sometimes you think you're doing your child a favor when the child refuses to go to school because they're very anxious that morning. You might call and say, oh, Susie's not feeling well today. If the child is refusing to go to school, make sure when you're calling in to let them know that child's not coming in, your child's not coming to school, that you tell them the child is refusing to go to school. The school district needs to become aware of this. They need to watch out for the pattern. Make it very clear to the school what's going on, that you cannot physically get your child into the school building. The child is refusing to go. Let them know because of their anxiety and their stress levels, they are unable to get out the door, or they're unable to get out the car, or they're refusing to get on the school bus. Communication is very important because, as we're going to go over the next slide, there are things that the school district must do depending upon the amount of days that the student is absent from school. It is very important that the district have the data that this child is refusing to come to school so that certain supports and services can be put in place to assist the child and hopefully nip school refusal in the bud before it snowballs out. Because what can start out as school refusal can also lead to full phobia of not being able to leave the home at all. And that is not a result that any of us want to see anybody have to go through. Nancy, do we want to stop and ask any questions, or do you want me to continue?
We do have one question. If you could just explain again, what is the resource to reach out for SPOA?
It's the single point of access. It's an application that your district should have, and they can go ahead and help you fill out the application, and they will send it to the correct agency. Sometimes it's the youth bureau department in the county. Sometimes it's the mental health association in your county, and then they will get other outside agencies to come around to assist your child. It could be CPS could get involved. It could be PINS could get involved. It could be outside therapists can be getting involved. The local mental health department can get involved. And of course, your school will have to be involved too. But every district should have access to this SPOA application. And you could probably Google SPOA and your county that you live in, and it should come up with the actual application itself.
Does anybody else have any other questions they'd like to pose? Looks like we have one more here now. Is it also a way to get Medicaid waiver services for a child or youth? SPOA is also a way to get Medicaid waiver services.
In order to get Medicaid waiver services, you have to have a disability that OPWDD recognizes.
Mhm.
School refusal is not one of those. You would
Yeah.
need something else going on. So it won't get you the Medicaid waiver, because you get the Medicaid waiver if you meet OPWDD's requirements or their definition of a disabled person. And it's one of the services that OPWDD provides that requires waiver money. And school refusal is not one of them. And
Any
to get
additional questions? I'm sorry.
get OPWDD waiver, they're looking at an IQ and impact on activities of daily living.
Mhm.
You know, a child with an average IQ is very hard. You're going to go through many levels of appeal to get through OPWD's admittance policy. Should I continue?
I guess so. Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So when a child has missed 5 days of school, either 5 days in a row or 5 days, you know, here and there, a mixture, extra notification will occur to the parent. When a child, like I said, misses 5 days of school, it could be consecutive or non-consecutive, the school should send a letter home to the parent that notifies the parent that their child has missed 5 days of school. When the child has missed 10 days of school, the principal should be contacting the parent to set up a conference to figure out what is going home, and a letter should be mailed home. During this conference, they're going to discuss the issues that are going on and what needs to happen to get the child back into school. Also, if a child has missed 10 consecutive days, depending upon the reason, home instruction could begin and could be put in place. And I will discuss home instruction later on during this presentation. But 10 days is also the requirement for eligibility for home instruction, as long as you meet the other criteria also. Now we're starting to get into what I call the red zone. If a child has been absent for 15 days, either consecutive or non-consecutive, the school team should be discussing the nature and the issues surrounding the absences. Is this a medical reason? Is this the development of school phobia? What is going on? Why is this child missing so many days? Remember, children are only in school for 180 days. 15 days is a significant amount of instruction that they have missed. And if it's 15 consecutive days in the middle or high school, they have missed a tremendous amount of work. So that alone can create a snowballing effect by itself. The team should also start be discussing, does this student need interventions? Does the school need to get more active into getting the student back into the building? 20 days is a huge red flag. If the child is absent for 20 days, good practices dictates that pupil personnel and special education services should be notified. The school doctor should be notified, and the school team should be discussing whether or not if a referral to Child Protective Services should be made, or if they need to make a referral to PINS, persons in need of supervision. This is why it's important to flag why your child is refusing to go to school. You don't just want to say that your child is homesick. You want to let the district know your child is refusing to go. You may need to seek at this point outside therapy help. You may need to start speaking to outside specialists. You may also need to make a referral to the special education department for a full and complete evaluation. Note, if the child is over the age of 16 and they don't show up for school for 20 days, the school can unenroll them from school. They won't do this if they know the reason for why the child is being absent, if it's for a medical reason or school phobia. But if they don't have anything back for you and they've tried multiple times to contact you, multiple times to figure out what's going on, and you don't respond, they can unenroll that child from school. So what are some of the options for a school phobic child? What can we do to assist the child who is afraid to go into school? Well, some of the options are homebound instruction, a reintegration plan to bring the student back into school with supports. We might need an alternative placement. And in my way of thinking, homeschooling would be a last resort. So what is homebound instruction? Homebound instruction is not homeschooling. Homebound instruction does occur when a child has missed 10 days or more of school, and usually it's 10 days consecutively. They have to miss 10 consecutive days of school, which can definitely happen when a child has school phobia. You will need to request homebound instruction from your district. You will also need a doctor's letter detailing the medical reasons why your child cannot attend school. And the team will work on with you in getting the homebound instruction set up, and also getting services put in place to get the child back into school. You're going to need medical documentation for this. Homebound instruction is only granted in cases of medical need. So you might need a psychiatrist to write a report stating that due to this child's severe anxiety, they are incapable of leaving the home at this point, and we are working on this, and this. Therefore, I'm putting the child in homebound instruction. If your child truly has a medical issue that is causing them a medical reason why they can't go to school, maybe they have uncontrolled IBS and they're constantly having diarrhea. You can't go to school if you're constantly having diarrhea. The doctor will need to note that in order to get homebound instruction. Your district's director of nursing will usually become involved at this point and be part of the team that reviews the homebound instruction request to approve it or disapprove it. They may come back and ask for more documentation. They may come back and ask if they can talk to your outside doctors and providers to get a feel for what is going on. They're going to ask you for permission to talk to them. At this point in time, I do suggest that you allow them to talk with your outside doctors and therapists, but only with you on the phone. You want to be part of those conversations. You don't want to be playing telephone tag where they talk to person A and then summarize what was said to you, or person A tells you this is what I said to the school. You want to be an active participant in these calls so everybody is on the same page. Everybody is on the same page with the plan. Everybody can get an update as to how that plan is working or not working. For homebound instruction, an elementary school student is entitled to 2 hours a day of instruction by a teacher. That works out to 10 hours a week. What will usually be focused upon at the elementary school level is going to be the cores, ELA and math. That is what the home instructor is really going to focus on, and writing. They're going to do a little bit of social studies and a little bit of science, but they're really going to focus on the reading, the writing, and the math skills. Your child will not be getting art. Your child will not be getting music. Your child most likely will not be getting any PE at this level. For secondary students, and those are students who are grade 7 and above, middle schoolers and high school, it does not matter if your middle school starts at 6th grade. 6th grade is still considered elementary school under New York State rules and regulations. So a 6th grader, even though they're in middle school, would only qualify for the elementary level of 2 hours a day or 10 hours a week of home instruction. At the middle school secondary level, 7th grade and above, the student is entitled to 3 hours of home instruction daily for 15 hours a week. And the teacher providing that should be certified within that subject. So you cannot have an English teacher teaching the core class of social studies unless that they're dual certified. Some of the issues with homebound instruction is the availability of these teachers and who's available to do it and what time they'll be able to do it. I will also tell you that on homebound instruction, a parent or guardian is going to have to be home when this is occurring, or you may have to meet at the library or something. Homebound instruction is where the school district is still responsible for the student's learning and the curriculum, and providing the curriculum and the materials for the student to keep progressing from grade to grade to grade. There are pros and cons for homebound instruction. Homebound instruction can give your child some breathing space. We can work on what is causing the anxiety at home. We can maybe trial meds if medication is appropriate. The homebound instruction schedule may need to be adaptive. Your child, especially at the secondary level, may not be able to handle with their anxiety and their stress triggers a full course load. They need to slow down their course load. And they're going to get direct one-on-one instruction with the teacher. It's going to be one-on-one with the teacher, either in person or via Zoom. And again, with homebound instruction, the district is responsible for providing the teachers. Now, when I did say at the elementary level, it's 2 hours a day, and at the 7th grade and above, it's 3 hours a day. That is the minimum that's required by New York State Department of Ed rules and regulations. You can advocate for additional supports and services and additional hours if you can prove the need for it. However, a lot of times when a child's on homebound instructions, they're not available for more than maybe 3 hours of teaching, and sometimes they're not even available for that. That is why sometimes that the amount of credits that a child is taking may slow down, and they may be staying in school longer because of that. Some of the cons of homebound instruction is that you're really focusing on the core classes only. So we may not really be building in areas of interest to your child. They're going to miss out on the socialization that occurs in school. So if they're on homebound instruction for a very long time, they may miss out some of that natural development that occurs when you're in school with your peers, how to interact in tricky situations, how to handle sarcasm, how to determine who's a true friend versus a fake friend. They may not get that development because they're out of school. You're going to have limited availability of tutors. Not all teachers are going to be available to tutor. They may have set hours when they can do, and you're going to have to meet them. If they can only meet your child from 3 to 4 o'clock and you're working to 6 o'clock, you're going to have to come home early and work with them. They may not be comfortable coming into your home. You may have to meet them at a library, so you're going to have to provide your own transportation back and forth. You're only getting about a third of the instruction, the typical instruction that occurs, because you're limited to the hours that you're doing. You may not graduate with your classmates on time if we have to slow down the curriculum. And it's also going to limit you as to what electives at the high school level a student can participate in, because you're going to have to find an instructor and that type of elective that can actually be done in a home environment. For some of the science classes that have labs, some of the labs require physical equipment, and you're going to have to navigate either getting the equipment to your house or meeting the teacher somewhere with the equipment to do those part. There are lab requirement hours to sit for the regents in some of these science. For example, earth science has lab requirements. If you don't meet the lab hours, you can't sit for the regents. That is why attendance is also so important, because there is what we call a seat requirement. The child has to be in a school seat or learning for a certain amount of hours to actually be eligible to get the credit on top of passing the class. So you could have a child who may have been straight A's and all of a sudden refuse to go to school, but if the refusal is going on for months on end and they're not getting any home instruction, they're not going to meet the seat requirements to get credit for those classes.
We have a couple of questions, Denise.
Okay.
In relation to Child Protective Services getting involved, could you explain why they would be called if the school's aware that it's school refusal and not the parent keeping the child home?
Some schools feel like, because they're mandated reporters, that they're obligated to call Child Protective Services at that time. And so they will call Child Protective Services and get them involved. Child Protective Services is going to come in and they're going to make sure, and they're going to get a waiver to talk to your doctors to make sure you actually are attending all the therapies that you're scheduled, that you're attending the specialist doctor's appointments that you said you have attended. They're actually going to be double checking all that. So that is why some districts will get CPS involved.
Also, does that also, the number of days that you talked about that were really significant for them to get involved, does that apply to lateness as well?
It can, if it becomes, yes, it can, especially if the latenesses are not excused.
Yeah.
So if they're because my child won't get out of bed and I can't get them in early, they're still missing instruction. The school district may be required to notify CPS and or put other supports in place. Again, if there's a medical reason, severe anxiety, or I physically cannot get up for periods 1, 2, 3, we've got to find a way to work around that.
Right. And lastly, we just have a comment that, and I know this is accurate, that there's a very severe shortage of homebound instructors in person, even more than virtual. So that tends to be an ongoing problem.
That is true. And there are some virtual, I'm going to say, agencies that are providing virtual instruction. Some of them are good, some of them are not as good. Some of them may be providing instructors that are not certified within the content area, and they're supposed to be certified in the content area when you're talking about secondary school, which is why a lot of times you'll see in districts, if they have an integrated co-taught class, they don't have it for foreign languages, because that teacher would have to be certified both special ed and content, the foreign language, and that is a very rare combination. But again, this is what your child is entitled to. So as a parent, you have to fight for it.
Great. That's it for now. Thank you.
Okay. Does home instruction last forever? No, it does not. Home instruction should have an end date on it. It should not be forever. You're going to have to talk to your psychiatrist, your psychologist, or your therapist about information that can go on to a 504 plan or an IEP if your child is eligible for one, and any other ideas for supporting the student to get them to get back into the school building in any shape or manner. If, as I discussed before, if the school has called CPS on you, CPS is going to check to see that you are making and keeping the appointments with these outside therapists, that you are communicating with the school, that if the doctor has prescribed medication, that the child is taking the medication, and if the child is not taking the medication, why not? It is in your best interest to keep communication open between your school team and your outside provider team, with you being a part of all these conversations. You have to let all the team members know that you're still unable to get the child into school. I mean, let's be real. If you have a 16-year-old child, not many of us can physically get them in the car. It's one thing that you can maybe physically pick up a first grader and put them in a car and drive them to school and physically take them out of the car and walk them into the building. Teachers cannot physically manhandle your child, so they cannot do that for you. You're not going to be able to physically move a 16-year-old teenager. They're not that easy to move if they don't want to do something. Again, there are other supports that can be put in place to help with this. But again, the goal of homebound instruction is to get either the underlying medical condition under control, could it be severe anxiety or some other mental health disorder, and get them back in the building in some way, shape, or form. It may not be a full day, but to get them back into the building. So while you're on homebound instruction, we should be developing a reintegration plan with all the providers talking together. What's going to happen is you're going to have to develop a team, and we're going to have to develop a plan for getting the student to set foot back on the school property. Your first step is to start building your team. Who do we need to get involved in this? The team can include the school social worker, the guidance counselor, therapist, both private and school provided therapist. It could be if your child is on a sport, it could be the coach of that team. It could be if your child is on a school group or a school activity, the teacher that's leading that group in that activity. It could be a trusted current teacher that your child has made a connection with, or maybe there was a teacher in the past that your child has made a significant connection with, and we need to bring that person onto the team. We need to find who is going to become your child's trusted person, their go-to person, and get them on the team. This is going to be the person your child can go to when we're finally get them back in the building, when they need that extra support and comfort. You have to listen to your child as you're developing this plan. You have to talk through all of your concerns and the child, all of their concerns. Listen to what your child is telling you, and I would recommend that you repeat it back to them and ask them, did I understand what you're telling me? Is what I'm saying correct, or did I miss something? And if they say, no, you're wrong, Mom, ask them to restate it, ask them to rephrase it for you, and then echo it back to them again to make sure you really are truly listening and understanding what your child is telling you. Your child has to be part of the process, because if your child is not part of this process, the plan is not going to work. You're going to have to ask and determine, excuse me, if you do need special education services, meaning, was there a disability that we missed? Was there a learning disability that has been missed or been masked throughout the child's school education careers that has now come to the forefront, that the child can no longer cope or compensate for, and we have to get services in place? For example, your child may have an undiagnosed reading disorder, but because of an extremely high IQ, was able to compensate up until they hit that block where my compensation skills can no longer hide the fact that I can't read properly, that I cannot keep up with my peers, and I am so tired of feeling dumb. You don't get special education services due to lack of instruction time. You get special education services because you have a disability that impacts, that is not allowing you to access the curriculum. Do you need a transition plan back to get back into the building? Example, you could start at home instruction, and then maybe we can drive to the school parking lot, sit there for a minute and drive home. Then maybe the next day, after home instruction, we drive to the school parking lot and stay there for 5 minutes. Maybe the next time we go to the school parking lot, we sit there for 10 minutes, and the school guidance counselor who the child gets along with comes out just to say hi and see how you're doing, and then we go back home. Maybe over time, we gradually increase so the child gets out of the car and hangs out in the parking lot with their trusted person for maybe half an hour. Then maybe we do that a few days, and if it's still comfortable, the child's feeling fine, we have the child walk into the person's office and stay for 10 or 15 minutes. And we gradually increase it to maybe the child comes in for one period a day. It could be the first period, it could be the last period. If the child is very physical and loves gym, maybe the class we come to for the day is gym. Trying to minimize the pressure, but just getting them back used to being in the building and getting them to socialize with their peers again. If one period is successful, maybe we add a second period on behind it. We wait a little while, see how the child's doing, regroup as a team, and then keep adding classes and periods on until the child is able to come back into a full day of school. By the end of this plan, we should be able to have the child back in school full time with the appropriate supports and services in place and ongoing counseling to help prevent this from reigniting and becoming another full-blown school avoidance. So when do we do a special education services and referral? And when do we need a 504 plan? During the school refusal time when home instruction is being provided, we should be making a referral to the special education committee so that they can do a full and complete evaluation and determine, is there a learning disability that we missed? Is there a disability that is negatively impacting the child's ability to learn the curriculum? And a severe anxiety disorder can negatively impact your ability to learn. Anxiety can be thought about, think of, I'm aging myself, and some of you younger ones may not know what I'm talking about. Some of you who are my age or a little bit older will know what I'm talking about. Many years ago, when we did computers, we had to put all the data on what was known as a floppy disk. What we're asking the child who's suffering from anxiety to do is to do all these significant NASA level math problems using a floppy disk. It's not going to work. They're not going to be able to tune in and attend to school at this point. We have to figure out why. So if your child does not qualify for an IEP, and I will discuss briefly who qualifies for an IEP, they may qualify for 504 plan. Who qualifies for 504 plan? A student who has a physical and mental impairment that substantially limits one or more life activities. So severe anxiety can qualify for this. And you can get certain accommodations on a 504 plan, like if a child can't get their homework and classwork done on time, they can get extended time to get that work done without being penalized for it. They may get breaks as needed, or they may get time breaks. Could also be time breaks during exams without penalty. So for example, if they need a 15-minute break, they get an additional 15 minutes to complete the test or the quiz. They can also get extended time on tests and quizzes. It could be time and a half, it could be double time. They may get use of a computer. They may get use of a scribe. They may get someone who can read the materials to them. They may get a modified day, and they could have a check-in person, someone who's going to check on them periodically to see how the day is going, and then over time gradually expand the amount of time in between the check-ins. IEPs are for students who have has a disability that meets the definition of one of the 13 classifications. An emotional disability is one of those classifications, and that substantially negatively impacts their ability to learn. What you get with an IEP is you get special education services. For example, you can get a consultant teacher, either direct or indirect. A direct consultant teacher will work in a small group in a classroom with a small group of students directly with them. An indirect consultant teacher will work with the general education teacher to modify how the general education teacher is teaching the curriculum to the students, but they will not interact directly with the student. You can get related services, for example, OT if there's a sensory issue that's preventing the child from going to school. PT, speech therapy if there's socialization skills that are lacking that the child needs assistance with in order to feel comfortable around their peers. They may have counseling to help work with their noticing when their anxiety levels are starting to rise, and some coping strategies to employ when they notice their own anxiety is starting to rise. You can get resource room. That can either be for reading, assistance with a reading specialist. It could be for ELA in general. It could be for writing. It could be for a combination of reading and writing. It could be for math, or it could be a study skills group. Maybe your child doesn't know how to organize all this material. Maybe your child doesn't know how to get started on a project, and they can help break it down into smaller sections for them. Again, they can get the same accommodations you can find on a 504 plan. Extended test time, extended time to get schoolwork done and handwork handed in, big assignments broken down into smaller parts, frequent check-ins, refocusing and redirection, having directions clarified for the child, or having the child repeat the directions back to them to make sure that the student understands what the teacher wants them, modeling, etc. Copy of class notes if the person is having an OT issue or is just not able to keep up with the flow of the class, they can get a copy notes. They get a teacher provided study guide, or they can have copy of class notes that leave blanks in them where the student is supposed to put in the answer, but you can also get a copy of the answer key. So whatever your child missed during a school, they can then fill in on their own. Because having half class notes, which have some blanks in it, doesn't really help the child if they're not capable of getting all those answers on the page when the instruction is occurring. Now, at times, the student may not be able to come back to the general education classroom or the regular school building. You may need an alternative placement, and we're going to discuss what some of these alternative placements could be. We may need an appropriate placement to meet their learning needs. If the child has significant learning disability that's been missed, they may not be able to be in a general education classroom. We may need to be in an integrated co-taught classroom, which has a general education teacher and a special education teacher working together to teach the students and break down the material. ICT classes are not required under New York State Departments of Rules and Regulations, so your district may not offer it, but a consultant teacher is required as part of the New York State Rules and Regulations, and a direct consultant teacher is pushing into the classroom. So if your child needs that model, you can get a direct consultant teacher for all 4 core subjects: ELA, math, science, and social studies. Your child may need an intensive day therapy program where they're going to really focus on therapy and helping the child learn coping skills for their anxiety or whatever else is going on, learn how to recognize that the anxiety is ramping up and what to do in those conditions. They may, during the intensive day therapy, may work on medication if that is appropriate for the child. These generally are short-term programs, 6 to 8 weeks, with the goal of getting the child back into the regular school. Your child may need an alternative high school where the high school incorporates therapy during the day, but is still learning the curriculum. For example, here in Rockland County, we have Birchwood, which is considered a therapeutic school. They have crisis counselors on staff. They have a lower ratio of students to teacher in the classroom, and the teachers will provide extra help before, after school, and even during pullouts to assist the students in catching up or learning the material if they didn't learn it in the classroom. Or your child may need to go to a therapeutic school, and they may need to attend a therapeutic school for the rest of their career or for a year or two until things get under control, and then they come back to the school. All these are all things that could happen and could help your child. Now, in my opinion, and some parents are forced into this, you can opt to homeschool your child. Homeschooling is not the same thing as home instruction. Homeschooling is where you are unenrolling your child from the school district and you're telling the school, I'm going to be responsible for teaching my student how to read, how to write, how to get through the entire curriculum. I'm going to be developing the curriculum. I'm going to determine what curriculum we're doing. I'm going to be the one that's testing my child. I'm the one that's going to be monitoring my child's progress, meaning me as the parent. Homeschooling is on the parent. The school district is not obligated to provide teachers if you are homeschooling your child. New York State does have some requirements for parents when they are homeschooling their own children. You must provide a written notice of intent to homeschool your child to the district superintendent. I do recommend that you CC the school building principal and the director of special education. The school must then provide a copy of the home instruction regulations to the parents, and the parents must complete, and the district must approve, and the district must review and ultimately determine whether or not they're going to approve the home instruction plan or if revisions are needed for it to meet the regulations. An individual education service plan, and just because your child, let's say, had special education services previously, does not mean in the homeschooling that you're automatically going to get them. The parent must request related special education services by June of the current year to have those services come into effect the next school year. So for example, if you suspect you're going to be homeschooling your child for the 24-25 school year, by June 1st of 2024, you have to make the request for the special education services and related services. So it could be maybe a special education teacher, it could be speech, PT, OT counseling in order to get it. You also, for a newly identified child, you have 30 days from the identification of the disability to request special education services. If you miss these deadlines, the district has the legal right to not provide those services to your child. And there are districts that if you miss it by a day, will not provide these services to your child because you missed the deadline. So you have to be very cognizant of these deadlines when you're homeschooling your child.
Denise, we have a couple questions.
Sure.
If you are on homeschool, the IHIP program, can you get related services?
Yes, you can if they are requested within the deadlines that I just discussed. So if the child is newly identified as having a disability and would qualify for an IEP, you have to make that request to your district superintendent within 30 days of that identification, or you have to, and then once you get it, that current school year, June 1st, you have to make a request for the upcoming school year. So if you make the request June 2nd in 2024, you're not getting these services for school year 24-25. You have to do it by June 1st.
Also, we have a couple questions in regards to, can you get a special educator during homeschooling? And what would have to be on the IEP to actually get a special educator under the IHIP?
A lot of times the special educator is going to work on behaviors, or if you have a child who's significantly behind in reading where you need a reading specialist, you're not going to get like a special education teacher to come in and teach the actual material. They're going to be working on specific something.
And is specialized reading instruction in place of the core reading instruction in classroom or in addition to it? And how does that differ from resource room reading?
Oh, you're going to hate my answer. The answer is maybe, depending upon your district. So to make sure I answer all parts of that question, please. I'm going to start with, you can get specialized reading instruction on top of the general reading. A lot of school districts will do their pull out of reading during the general reading instruction in the classroom. Some school districts will set certain periods of the day where they're pulling students out for needs. You generally don't want to pull a child out of their ELA block for reading instruction. You want to keep them in there and get reading instruction on top of that. That would, to me, would be best practices. Reading instruction can be a pullout and as a related services listed as reading specialist, multisensory reading program, or it could be underneath the resource room. It depends upon your district. It depends upon the profile. What you want to make sure is whatever group you're in, is that group meeting your child's needs? So for example, if your child's issue is reading comprehension, you don't want them in a group that's just learning how the sounds work or they're starting to read sight words. So they might be in a resource room in that year, and then the next year they may switch to reading specialist because the needs have changed. So it could flip-flop back between the two. Some districts say it's all resource room. Some districts like to claim that it's double dipping if you're in a self-contained class to ask for specialized reading instruction. Well, it seems to me the children that really need the reading instruction are those that are in a self-contained class. To me, I don't see that's double dipping. It's like saying because I go to a primary care doctor, I can't go to a cardiologist when I have a heart problem. If your child needs a multisensory reading approach and they're not making progress in reading in the self-contained class, they are entitled to learn how to read if they're capable of learning how to read. And your district cannot keep doing the same program. It's kind of like being on a diet. If I want to lose weight, but I keep eating my favorite Snicker bars every single night, I'm not going to lose weight. If I keep using the same reading program year after year after year, and I'm not making progress, why would I think doing the same program the following year is going to make a difference? It's not.
I think we have one more question here.
Did I miss something in that
did.
question?
You clarified the difference between
Okay.
resource room and specialized reading. So how does somebody get a special reading instruction?
You have to show the need for it. You have to have evaluations that are showing your child is more than a grade level behind in reading. And that's when you can start arguing that you need specialized reading instruction. You don't want to be in 7th grade reading on a 2nd grade reading level, and you sure as heck don't want to be facing regents on a 2nd grade reading level. Because sometimes I'll see students that are in a 15-1-1 class that's supposed to be curriculum-based diploma track, meaning they're going to sit for the regents, yet they're reading on a 2nd grade reading level. How are you going to pass a regents if you're reading on a 2nd grade reading level? Even with the safety nets that are in place, I don't see it happening. When you have that reading gap, that is when you need to start pushing for specialized reading services by a certified reading instructor. And there are different levels of reading instructors. Everyone thinks Orton Gillingham. If they hear the words, I'm trained in Orton Gillingham, I'm home free. No, you're not. What type of training do they have? Did they go for the weekend training? Or did they go for the 200 plus practicum hour training? That's a big difference in skill sets.
We have just a couple more and then we'll let you move on. What is the correct support for auditory processing? And is it speech learning specialist, or both?
I would need to know, in order to answer that question, you need to know how the auditory processing is impacting their ability to learn in the classroom. So what is the impact in the classroom? That'll determine what supports and services you need. Usually it's that they're not able to process the information quick enough, that you may need specialized instruction. You may need text leveling software. You may need a speech therapist to help you with some of the processing. It could be a combination of all of them.
All right.
I think we've covered everything on this slide. So some reintegration strategies. We're going to discuss how we can start planning to get this child back into the school building. A key strategy for parents is to develop and maintain those social connections to their peers and with trusted school professionals. So if your child has a favorite teacher, we want to keep the communication open between them, even if it's by email or the teacher just sending using the Remind app to send a quick hi, how are you to the student, and vice versa, back and forth. You want to keep up, if the child is younger, play dates with students they had at play dates before. Mom or dad might become much more active in this. You may have to become an active role in setting these play dates up, even if it's a fifth grader. Yes, I know some fifth graders have their own cell phones and they're making their own activities, but you may need to step in here and contact the other parent to set up a play date for your child. If your child is interested in a club at the library or a club at the school, let them, and most districts will say, yes, even though you're not coming to school during the day, you can still come to the club so we can get you on the school property and hopefully work backwards. You may need to encourage your child to reach out to their friends to do activities, because again, a lot of times out of sight, out of mind, a lot of after school activities are developed during school. It's impromptu. And if you're not there, other children are not doing this to be malicious. They may just forget to include your child because your child's not there. You have to really help your child minimize this negative impact. This must be your step one of the reintegration plan. They have to have a connection to the social part of their peers before they're going to be comfortable coming back into their building. The next key part is slowly does it. We're not going to go from school refusal to going back into school full-time 5 days a week for the full admittance for the full school day. It's not going to happen. It's going to have to go over slowly. You're going to need to remember that the negative experience that have led to the school refusal are still there. If this negative started in the elementary school level, I struggled to read, but it wasn't caught, and I always felt stupid. And I couldn't keep up with my peers, or you being bullied throughout your elementary school career. Now you're in middle school, you have years of negative experience that have built up, that have triggered such severe anxiety and such phobia of school that you were not going into school. You're going to have to find a way for the student to overcome those negative experiences to get them comfortable with the thought of even considering going back into the school building. You're going to have to refamiliarize them with the school building again, but slowly. Do not rush this. The last thing you want to do is have a disorganized plan and rush it and be back to square one again. For every negative encounter or experience a student needs, you're going to need 5 positive encounters to counteract that negative experience. You may need to find and develop what's known as a check-in person. This is your child's go-to person. This is a person that your child feels very safe and comfortable with and feels like they can go to when they're starting to break down. This person in the beginning may need to meet your child every single day as you drive them up to the building and walk them into the building. Your child may not be able to get on the bus right away. This person may just have to walk them to the classroom. This person may have to check in periodically throughout the school day as the child progresses. Your child should also have a pass or some sort of signal for the teacher that tells them, hey, I'm feeling my anxiety rise. I need to go to my check-in person. And you also need to have a backup for this check-in person. What happens when this trusted person is out sick? You don't want this to spiral. So you need to have a secondary person that your child becomes comfortable with. So they may have to meet the secondary person with their trusted person so they begin to get familiar with that person, get accustomed to that person, get familiar with that person. So you have a backup. The last thing you want is anxiety starting to rear its head again in school and the trusted my person is not there because they're homesick with COVID or the flu or something. You're going to need a backup for this. and a way to get in touch with that backup person. A lot of times it can be the school counselor, could be your person, could be your child's check-in person, your child's comfort person. But remember, school counselors at times are dealing with crises and may not always be available. That is why there has to be a backup person that your child becomes familiar with and comfortable with, so that we do not have this explode.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but we did have somebody that talked about a situation where the child has developed a sudden phobia of traveling by car and by bus, and they are at a distance. Their school is 50 miles from the home. So they're trialing some different things, but they wanted to know if it would be a good idea to conduct an FBA, a functional
Yes.
behavior analysis.
Yes, I would, because the behaviorist may come up with a plan and can determine what is triggering that phobia. What triggered that phobia? Now we have to figure out a way to modify that phobia. And you may need to bring in a social worker, a psychiatrist, or a psychologist also, depending upon what that root cause of that phobia is. But a behavior plan definitely should be part of this too, when you have a child who's refusing to get in a car and or a bus.
Great, thank you.
You could have a modified school day as part of your plan. The child may need to begin their reintegration with a modified school day. And this plan should spell out, is the child expected to come for 1 period, 2 periods? Which periods are they coming from? Which way are we going to work out from those periods? Let's say we get the child in by 8th period. Then we're slowly going to work to get him in for 7th and 8th period. Then we're going to work to get him to 6th, 7th, and 8th period. Or maybe the child can get up in the morning, but doesn't have the stamina to stay the whole day. Okay, we're going to go in for 1st period. And then mom and dad or dad's going to come pick you up. And then gradually we're going to increase it to 2 periods that you're going to stay in, and then mom and dad are going to come pick you up. Or maybe the school could also provide transportation for these to and from school. Maybe we're going to have, like I said, early dismissal. And again, it could either be you pick the child up, or the school could provide transportation if the child's willing to get on the bus. You could have planned rest for the day, that maybe the child is going to check in with the school nurse during period 4 and is going to stay there for period 4 to decompress and be okay. You may need in-school alternative instruction, depending upon what the child's needs are, because remember, if they've been out of school for a significant amount of time, they've lost a lot of instructional time and they may be behind with the classes. The last thing you want to do is put a child who had academic issues that were not addressed previously back into a classroom where they've missed a lot of instruction and don't know what's going on. Math builds upon itself. If you missed the instruction here, you can't do the math up here. We've got to give you specialized instruction to get you up to here. And by specialized, I don't necessarily mean always special education. We just may need to say, hey, you're going to have a resource room instead of your algebra class, where we're only going to be working on foundational skills of math until we get you up there.
Can you just explain what in-school alternative instruction is, and if that's an official thing? What does it mean?
What that usually is when we've noticed that a child has missed so much that they cannot realistically be expected to go into that particular classroom and keep up. So for example, for a child who's missed a lot of math, because you're not going to be able to go in, 4th quarter into an algebra class, you've missed too much. So instead of going into that general education algebra class, we may be meeting with another algebra teacher on, unfortunately, what would probably be their break period. And that algebra teacher is going to give one-on-one instruction to catch the student up to where the class is. And again, this may take place over time. It may not happen in 1 quarter. I mean, it's going to be unusual to be able to do a whole year's worth of instruction in 1 quarter, but they're going to not be in that particular classroom doing it. A lot of times your more therapeutic schools, alternative placements have that in place to do it. We also, before the child gets into school, we have to know what triggered them in the first place. What are the triggers? What caused them to not want to be in school in the first place? Is it the fear of being late to class? Is the school building so big? For example, some of you who are in the Arlington Central School District or the Clarkstown Central School District or the Yonkers Central School District, those buildings are huge at the high school and middle school level. Some students cannot physically get to the locker and get to the next class. It's not possible, especially if you're dealing with different wings. And maybe they've been late so often that this is now become, oh my God, I'm always late and it's skyrocketed. Maybe we need to let them have extra time between their classes, leave one period a little bit early so they have extra time to get to the class. Maybe the hallways are so much sensory overload for them because there's so many students in them that we need to let them leave class earlier so that they're getting in front of their next classroom before all the other students enter the hallway. Or maybe they need an adult to help them navigate the school building. Maybe they need to use the elevator instead of the stairs. Maybe the stairs are too crowded and the acoustics in them is just too much for the student to handle. If they're having trouble with their lockers or the locker area itself is just too chaotic, maybe we have to find a way where we keep certain books in certain classrooms so that we don't have to worry about going to my locker and keeping a second set of books at home. Maybe we need to use noise canceling headphones within the school walkways and corridors. Maybe we need to use sunglasses. Some students get set off by the overhead lights. The flickering of those lights can be sensory overload for some students and they cannot tolerate anymore. Maybe they need to wear sunglasses. I've had students who, and I don't understand the reasoning behind this, but they did not feel comfortable if they were not wearing a hat. Something about wearing a hat made them feel like they were blending more into the crowd and they weren't standing out. So if you force the student to remove their hat, they refuse to go to school. So let them wear their hat in school and in the classroom. You know, to me, if they're willing to come to school wearing a hat is not the hill that the district wants to die on. We want to minimize these triggers. We want to teach the student coping mechanisms for these triggers. Be on the alert. We need to, even though we've got them back now, let's say everything's fine, they're back in school full time, they're starting to do club activities, they're starting to do sports again, they're starting to hang out with their friends again, they're starting to do their homework, the teachers are giving you good reports. We cannot as a team relax. We need to keep an eye out for triggers. For example, we need to watch for the student complaining about stomach aches or going to the nurse a lot. This can be a sign that this anxiety is ramping up again and we may need more check-ins or we may need additional services. They may have a loss of interest in stuff that was. If they were so gung-ho about trying out for a sports team and they made it, and now all of a sudden they don't want to go anymore, or they were so interested in a school club or so interested in meeting their friends, but now they no longer want to do this, that's a red flag that this underlying anxiety problem is coming back and we need to step up our game. Frequent bathroom trips. A lot of times we will notice that if they're struggling in a class, a particular class, they will need to go to the bathroom more often during that class. The teachers may need to start taking data as how often the child is going to the bathroom. It may not occur to the teacher that, well, you know, he's really going to the bathroom a lot. You may not think going to the bathroom, but if you think of a child goes out to the bathroom and takes 5 or 10 minutes and each period's 40 minutes, you've lost 1/4 of instructional time. You might have missed a key piece of instructional time. Teacher may need to make notations and go, hey, wait a minute, this child's going to the bathroom every single class. What's going on here? If the child is having panic attacks, we need to get the team back together very quickly. If they're having a drop in their grades, we need to figure out why. We need to reconvene as a team. If they have illogical fears, these are warning signs that this anxiety is starting to rear its head again and it is going to become the 4Ds again. It's going to disrupt everything. It's going to be duration is going to be longer. It's going to, interfere with their ability to function. If they have a change in their appetite, that is a warning sign that the anxiety and the school phobia may be coming back. Fatigue, extreme fatigue is another society. As the anxiety ramps up or depression starts to ramp up, people start to feel more and more tired, more and more fatigued. They almost give up, and we need to be aware of that. We need to find that. Sleep issues. They may be oversleeping or they may not be sleeping enough, and then they're going to school, they can't focus. All these are warning signals, and sometimes severe anxiety can cause other physical problems. For example, it is known that severe anxiety could cause irritable bowel syndrome. Irritable bowel syndrome can make the person have constant diarrhea or severe stomach pains. So yes, those severe stomach pains are real, and now they can't function in the classroom anymore. We need to be aware that this can happen. It does not matter if your student's fear is logical or illogical. It is their perception that is controlling. Their perception is their reality. It doesn't matter if everybody else on the team is saying, but that's illogical. That's not reality. It does not matter what your child feels and what your child's perception is. That is their reality. And that is the reality that we as a team assisting and supporting the student must deal with. Their perception, their feelings. That's what's going to control whether or not if they're going to be going to school or not. The school is and headaches. Headaches is another one. The school is obligated to have kids in school. It is a partnership. It is their responsibility to help students develop social skills and academic skills. The school needs to work with you and the outside therapists and providers to help the child in coming to school, to have them maybe walk the halls of the school when the school is empty to get the child used to it, work with the school psychologist. You're going to have a combination of supports both privately and at home and through the school, and they're going to have to work together in conjunction to overcome school phobia and refusal. We can now open for questions if people would like. I know I gave a lot of information very quickly.
Do we want to open the chat so that folks can speak, or do you want me to just share the questions?
Either way, whatever the person prefers.
Okay. Looks like we have somebody that's raised their hand, so you can unmute, Cindy.
Hi, thank you so much. You guys are very informative. I have
you.
a fourth grader and he's currently taking speech. I noticed that he's having difficulty with a lot of the material and he is getting pulled out of his regular English class to go to the special English class because he's foreign born and English is his second language. And I realized that even though he's in fourth grade, he's at a kindergarten reading level and he's very behind. In addition to the problem with the reading, he's missing on the regular stuff. He's not having his spelling tests. He's not engaging in the regular class. How do I address this?
Now, is he not engaging in the regular class? How often is he being pulled out of the class?
He's being pulled out once a day for his English class. I learned from you that he is able to get the reading, which I've been working on. I pay for private tutor and he is just really, really behind.
Right. So has the district evaluated, is your son getting the reading, the pullout through an IEP or through a building level service?
So that's the problem I'm having. He got evaluated in March. We are, already in November almost, and I haven't received the evaluation. The only current thing that he's getting services for is speech, in addition to being pulled out of the English class because he's a non-native.
Okay, what you need to do is you need to contact the director of special ed, or it could be the superintendent of, pupil personnel, special education, and say, the evaluations were supposed to have been done last year. What is the status? And when are we having the CSE meeting?
And that CSE meeting never happened. I did
Right, because
address
you never got the
Exactly.
evaluations. Right, you need to
Exactly.
find out if those evaluations were ever done.
So I spoke to the teacher that he's in now, and I mentioned to her that I'm concerned that he doesn't understand because he doesn't know how to read. She told me, well, I know that he gets extra time for test and that he gets someone to read the test for him, which is fine, but that doesn't solve the problem of him not knowing
Right.
how to read.
You need to get in touch with the director of special ed and find out if those evaluations were done or not.
Thank
And
you.
if they were not done, you need to tell them to expedite them because the request was last year and they blow the timeline.
I
and get them-
requested for him to get evaluated when he was in kindergarten. He didn't get evaluated till he was in second grade. He didn't start getting speech till he was in third grade.
All right, thank you for offering some information. If everybody could just please try to ask general questions, just so that we can maintain confidentiality as well.
And also, if you do need more specific assistance, you can always get in contact with Putnam and Westchester Independent Living Center, do an intake, and then we can set up, one of us will end up giving you a call back to discuss what's going on and can do more specific. That's not general. And I believe New York Disabilities Rights also has an intake form that you can fill out and get assistance that way too.
Sure. And Denise, will your information be on the PowerPoint?
It's not on the PowerPoint.
I can put
can
it in the
can-
information.
Yeah, I can add it in. And I
That'd
can
be
also put
great.
it in the chat. I can put it in the chat right now. The
Great.
main number to call. Everyone in meeting.
Does anybody have other questions that they would like to ask? Or you can certainly write it in the chat, and I'll be happy to read it out. I know we do have a couple folks on the phone as well. If anyone's on the phone, you just need to select *6 and then *6 again when you're done to mute yourself.
So I did put the phone number for Putnam Independent Living Services in the chat. It's 845-228-7457. And what you would do is you would call and do an intake. And then, either myself or one of the educational advocates would give you a call back to discuss your specific situation. But you can, ask questions here. I'm here. I'm more than willing to answer any questions that I can.
Great. Let me scrub through here and see if there's been any others that I might have missed. Is there an upper minute limit for a resource room that you know of?
It's not so much an upper limit. It's when you start pulling a child out close to the 40% of time, 40 to 50% of time out of a general education room, you need to start questioning whether or not if you're in the right placement, because you're missing too much academics at that point. So you should
The
not
phone
be
number
spending
that
half your
you-
day in a resource room.
Right, right. The phone number that you listed for Putnam Independent Living Center, is that only for folks that are in Putnam County?
No, that is for the entire Lower Hudson Valley, the Sullivan, Orange, Ulster, Rockland, Westchester, Putnam. And
We do
Dutchess
have a lot
counties.
of folks on the call and in our program today that are throughout the state. So
Right,
if,
and I can refer you to if you call in, I can refer you to the person that does the same thing that I do in the different regions in the United States underneath the PTIC grant.
great.
The PTIC grant is United States wide because it's a federal Department of Education grant. In our situation, Starbridge up in Rochester, New York holds the grant for most of New York State other than New York City and Suffolk and Nassau counties. They are separate grants, PTIC grants, because the volume of people in those areas. But I can refer you to either, if you're like upstate, you tell me what county you're in, I can tell you who the appropriate person is to call, because they would know your districts better than I would.
Can you tell us what the acronym is for that grant?
It's
Again.
PTIC, Parent Training Information Center. You can also Google Parent Training Information Center near me, or find your parent center. And there is it actually comes up, it's underneath the Parent Center Hub, and it listed by state. You can look up Parent Training Information Centers by state. They're in every single state.
Someone else said that there's a lot of great information, but what advice would you give if parents have tried everything and the child just still can't go to school? In other words, the problem isn't the child, the problem is the traditional school environment.
I would start looking for an alternative placement, a different type of school environment, whether it be a therapeutic schooling or a private school that can meet their needs. Just remember, with private schools, they're not required to keep everybody.
Right.
So if your child has behaviors, the private school's not going to keep you. The private school is not going to have the resources that a public school will have. But if your child is typically academically sound, they may need a smaller classroom. They may need, you may have to look at a district also. I don't know in that question that was answered, did they look for alternative placements, out of district placements that can meet this child's needs? There are programs run by BOCES throughout, at least the lower Hudson Valley, where there's smaller classroom sizes that are still academically strong and go on to get diplomas. If your child cannot function in a general education classroom, we need to find out why, and then find a placement where they can function. The school district's answer can't be you homeschool them. You're not required to do that.
Right.
And as I jokingly say, there's not enough alcohol in this world for me to homeschool my child. That's just not gonna, I'm sorry. I can do a lot of things, but I don't want to be my child's teacher too. And I give a lot of credit and a lot of props to parents that can do that, especially when you get up to the higher academic subjects. I can't imagine trying to teach chemistry to my child. And those
Homeschooling is
parents that
definitely,
can, I'm in awe of you.
yeah, some people are saying it's becoming more common, more people are doing it.
Yes, it is definitely it's definitely becoming more common. And I do give parents a lot of props that can do it, because it takes a lot of time and an extreme amount of effort on the parent's part.
Here's a good question. If the school is slow to take action or slow in scheduling meetings, how can they be held accountable before going to lawyers or due process?
Sometimes you can take them to mediation. You can file a state complaint. You do that through the New York State Department of Education, their quality assurance unit.
CEQA.
CEQA, if they are denying your child these meeting stuff, sometimes a phone call from them will get them moving. Districts don't want CEQA coming in.
No.
CEQA doesn't come in a lot, but for certain things, CEQA will make a phone call. And when CEQA makes a phone call, the special ed department tends to listen, because they don't want them coming in and doing an audit and looking at what they're doing. So if they're not responding, you start creating your paper trail. This is the third time that I've asked for CSE meeting to discuss blah, 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 blah. Enclosed, please find copies of my first 2 requests. And then I would call CEQA and tell them you have this. And then I bet you CEQA is going to make a phone call on your behalf, asking why they have not set up this meeting. And, in certain situations, you can request an expedited meeting, and districts are required to provide those. Are there any other additional questions?
Looks like we do have a few more. Somebody said actually that you should run for president, Denise.
I always joke in a lot of my webinars that they should let me make the special education rules along with Jennifer O'Neill, who's on here. I see her, she's on here. A lot of this stuff would stop, because some of it is just, to me, ridiculous. And I think the teachers and the admin would agree with me. Some of these rules are ridiculous. And the state has not funded special education properly. Teachers go into teaching because they want to assist and teach children. They want them to be successful. And they're not always given the tools that they need for that to occur, and they're frustrated. And I blame our politicians for that. They didn't fund some of these mandates appropriately.
Someone says you're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
We think that for sure. And what's the difference between what you do and CEQA?
CEQA is New York State Department of Education. That's their quality assurance unit. CEQA is supposed to make sure that the districts follow the New York State rules and regulations. They're the ones that you file a complaint with against the district, that the district failed to do blank, 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 and they will determine whether or not the complaint is founded or unfounded. What I do is I assist parents in getting supports and services via phone and email in the school district. I do not work for CEQA. I work for an independent living center through a grant that's funded by the Federal Department of Education, which allows me to be a little bit more blunt.
And CEQA is SEQA, correct?
Yes, Special Education Quality Assurance. And I will tell you, when you call them, you're going to call their main number and they're going to ask you what school district you're in. And then that rep who covers that district will call you back. Sometimes you're playing phone tag because they still seem to be working from home.
Mm. Any other questions? Let's see. How do you help students that may have parents who are not savvy with emails and may have a high level of proficiency? May not have a high level of proficiency. It's definitely more of a challenge.
It is more of a challenge, but if they're not familiar with emails, and there's a reason why they're not familiar with emails, they may also qualify the parent for services at an independent living center. And the adult part side of that, the independent living side, may have courses to train them on how to use the email system. And they could be assigned a peer-to-peer advocate or a peer-to-peer mentor that can help them with that. And then would coordinate with me on what the email should say to the district. And then the peer advocate would help them actually send the email.
For report cards, are those general educators filling those out or special educators weigh in? If a child is refusing class and only comes sometimes, how would the report card reflect that? Not assessed?
We're talking about the actual report card. At the
Yes.
elementary school level, it's a 1, 2, or 3, or 4. It would be if they're in a general education class, it's going to be the general education teacher is going to assess them based upon what they have available. Will the report card reflect the absences, in the absence of the tardies and the latenesses or the early dismissals columns? At the middle school, the secondary level and above, if they don't meet the requirements, they'll get an incomplete for the quarter.
So their performance would be strictly in regards to the general ed classroom.
Well, the same thing could happen if you're in a special education classroom that is diploma tracked.
Mhm.
If you're in a life skills class, you're really not getting a report card. You're getting progress reports.
Right.
And then the progress report's going to say not started, students not in school.
Mhm.
Report cards are generally reflective of students that are in a curriculum-based class. That's usually your general education classrooms, your integrated co-taught classrooms, or your classrooms that have a direct consultant teacher in them, your 15-1-1s, and sometimes your 12-1-1s. You have to double check the 12-1-1 is curriculum based. It usually is, but every once in a while I find one that's not. So I tell parents, don't assume. You always ask. And they should have report cards. And they should tell you how your child is doing.
Do we have more questions that people would like to ask? We still have some time. And if you're more comfortable asking your question, you can unmute. We have a lot of people that have been sharing wonderful things about your assistance today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate everyone coming out. I know it's late at night, so I do appreciate everyone who came and who joined us.
Here's a question. Can the school or parent request to retain a child if they aren't making meaningful progress in general ed despite capability to do so?
Yes, they can request that the child be retained. Even if the child is getting special education services, it is not a special education CSE committee decision. It is a school building principal's decision as to whether or not a child will be retained. So it's the building level principal. And some of them are agreeable to it and some of them are not.
Yeah. What is that decision based on? I know these are hard questions.
I wish I can tell you that there was a criteria list that I can send you,
Mm,
but I haven't found one. They're going to look at the data, and I also think the philosophy of the district. Does the district retain students or not? Some districts will not retain students, period. They move them forward.
Yeah.
Retention does not seem to be widely used. And I do agree with the parent who's probably thinking it is a tool. And sometimes it's just the student needs an extra year to grow up and
Yeah.
mature a little bit so that they can catch up. If you have a child who is going to be young for the grade, what some parents have done is they'll put the child for kindergarten either into a private school or they'll pay for an extra year preschool because kindergarten is not mandated, and then come in the next year and enroll them as kindergarten.
Mm.
Now, in theory, the district can then throw the child in first grade, but I haven't seen that happen. They will put them in kindergarten because you just tell them they didn't have kindergarten experience. Even if you did a private school in kindergarten, you can just say, you know, my child didn't go to kindergarten, I'm enrolling for kindergarten. But there is no checklist that I'm aware of for when a child should be retained or not retained. I'm sure you can find best practices out there, but again, some districts do not retain at all.
We're getting a thumbs down emoji here.
Like I said, they ought to let us make the rules.
Yeah. Here's
I don't
another
think any
one.
child who's not reading at grade level, who has the capability of reading grade level, should be promoted.
Hmm.
That would not make a lot of districts happy.
In the CSE meeting, someone sharing that they find that the director of special ed seems to be making decisions unilaterally, even when we do not consent. Decisions are supposed to be by consent. What can parents do when they feel railroaded in the CSE meeting?
There's plenty of things that the parent can do.
Hmm.
The parent may not have enough data to back up their request. You're trying to prove why your child needs what you're requesting. You may need additional evaluations. You may need an independent educational evaluation. You may need to take part of your due process rights and, you know, go to mediation and then go to an impartial hearing. It all depends upon the fact pattern as to what parents can do. Yes, CSE is supposed to be a team, but you're one member of the team. I personally think the parent, unless the student themselves is at the meeting, is the most important person in the meeting, but you're one person. And it is the district representative, the CSE chair's position to make the final determination. So what you would have to do if you disagree with that determination is either go back and say, hey, look, I want another CSE meeting. I want additional evaluations, or your evaluations failed to get the root cause. I want independent at your expense. Or if you feel you really had another hard pass, you may want to bring in an advocate with you to have someone outside look at the evaluations. You may need to hire an attorney depending upon the fact pattern. You may go to mediation or you may have to go to impartial hearing if mediation does not work. Or you
Here's
may
a
need
good
to
one.
gradually get what you want. With
Yeah.
compromises where neither side really gets everything that they want, but you both get a little bit of what you want. So it's a win-win.
Mm-hmm. If the child does not get education because of class avoidance or school refusal, can you get compensatory support in that area over the summer?
From what I understand, you're not entitled to special education services, which is how you get compensatory services for lack of instruction. A lot of school districts, and I would say most school districts, if you had a school avoidant child who is starting to come back to school, will still provide services over the summer because they're trying to get the child back into the building. And if we can provide additional instruction maybe in one of the school district's therapeutic programs during the summer, where those teachers are able to modify the curriculum quicker and focus on key parts to get them caught up. A lot of school districts will do it. But I would not call it compensatory services when you're talking with the district. I would say, let's get this so we get the child back on track. Because once you say compensatory, you're saying that the school district failed to do something, and they're going to say, we didn't fail to do anything. We
Right.
did what we were supposed to do. We've done what we can do. So I would say, you know, the child was out for so many days. We started getting him back in. We don't want to lose the momentum over the summer. You know, what type of summer school program do you have? So we keep going with this, so we're not losing it. Now, if you had home instruction, they could continue home instruction over the summer
Mhm.
to let the child finish up the course, especially if you're talking about a child who needs to take Regencies. Or, you know, that's secondary and above, but you can continue that over the summer, even elementary school. If they didn't finish the whole grade, they can continue it through the summer. They continue to the extended school year day, and they can get superintendent's permission to continue it up until the first day of school, if needed. But don't call it compensatory services, because that's going to get you a no. Even though that's kind of what you're asking for, just call it, keep them catching up.
Yeah. Let's see. Can you get summer support all 10 weeks with superintendent permission?
What you get is most summer programs are 6 weeks. So you're talking about the 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after. You can, depending upon the circumstances. And if the superintendent agrees to it, or if special ed agrees to it, if you're underneath an IEP. It can happen, but you have to have a unique set of circumstances.
Yeah.
And they have to find a provider that is available. You know, you may have a teacher that is working summer school and says, I'm not coming in the 2 weeks before and the 2 weeks after. That's the only vacation I'm getting the entire year. And rightfully so, they need a break too. So it depends if they can even find somebody during those 2 weeks also.
All right. I think that we're good. We really appreciate you being here and presenting on this topic that is so important, Denise.
Thank you for the
And
invite. I appreciate it.
thank you. And everyone, thank you for coming. And we will send out the evaluation again. I've put the link in the chat as well, if you prefer to go through that. And we'll be in touch with you all with the PowerPoint tomorrow.